I want you to write the word still. How in the world, when our life is sitting here and there are storms raging around us of all kinds, right? Emotional storms, relational storms, situational storms, all these storms are happening around us. How can we find stillness or peace in the middle of it? On that day, when evening had come, Jesus said to them, let us go across to the other side. So, know this. So he's with his 12 disciples. They have been doing ministry. They've been watching miracles. And Jesus said, hey, I want to take us to the other side. Where they were going was Jesus' idea, not the disciples. So the disciples did not look at Jesus and go, hey, Jesus, I think we want to run across the lake and go to Whataburger. There's a great Whataburger over there. We want to get across the lake. That's not how it happened. How it happened was Jesus said to them, hey, guys, I think we ought to go to the other side. Now, these guys, most of them had grown up on the water. Most likely they're getting into Simon Peter's boat. It's not something they're not used to. Sailing at night, going at night was not something they weren't used to. Pick up the story. And leaving the crowd, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. So there were some other boats coming along. Look what happens in verse 37. And a great windstorm arose. So this is literally, if you were to pull out what that meant, it means there was a raging, furious storm. You ever lived through one of those storms that it rattles your house? It shakes your house? Storms during the day are bad. I hate storms at night, right? I mean, that wake you up, that clap of thunder, that bolt of lightning that hits. Can you imagine being out on the water? Now, I'm sure it's not the first storm these guys have ridden through, but this one evidently was different because they remembered it. And when this great windstorm arose and the waves were breaking, I want you to circle this little phrase because it makes the whole thing make sense, breaking into the boat. So it's not like there was a little bit trickling over. These waves are causing the boat to get full, because look at what it says next. And the boat was already filling. But it's interesting how they noted that there. He, Jesus, was in the stern. So yes or no? Was Jesus on the boat? Yes. Did they know where he was? Yes. So down in the hall, that cabin area, look at what it says. He was asleep on the cushion. These guys are bailing themselves to security, and Jesus is sound asleep on the cushion. And look at what happens. And he awoke, and he rebuked the wind and the sea, and he said, peace be still. And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. And he said to them, why are you so afraid? Do you have no faith? And they were filled with great fear, and they said to one another, who is this that even the wind and the sea obeys? Principle number one, we need the fruit of peace in our lives because obedience will often disrupt our comfort. Obedience will often disrupt our comfort, meaning this, sometimes he's the one that puts you in the boat. The family crisis that you're going through, you thought God led you to your spouse. You thought by having children your life would be more fulfilled, and yet they're causing problems. You thought he led you to that job that you were just informed by your employer that you no longer have. You thought that, right? Sometimes obedience, us doing what he tells us to do, sometimes disrupts our comfort. Why in the world does our obedience disrupt our comfort? I want you to write this down. Because we never grow in our comfort. God is more concerned with our character than our comfort. Sometimes our obedience pushes us out. See, these guys would have told you, oh, we've got a great faith in Jesus. We left our occupations to follow him. But the minute the storm arose, the storm was bigger than their faith. Does that ever happen to you? Happens to me all the time. Storms expose it, don't they? And sometimes when obedience causes the storm, we begin to question, did I do the right thing? Was I walking the right place? Because in our minds, when we're doing the right thing with the Lord, life ought to be easy and life ought to be calm and life ought to be simple, and it's just not the way that it is. Obedience. Second part is about the peace in the middle. Fear distracts our focus. Fear distracts our focus. Look at what it says there. And a great windstorm arose, and the waves were breaking in the boat, so that the boat was already filling. The one that they said they were giving up their life to follow is right there. But in that moment, the wind and the waves was bigger than the Jesus that was in the stern of the boat. I wrote this down this morning. Peace says, my boat may be filling up, but I know the one that's in my boat is greater than the circumstances outside and filling up my boat. So these guys on that boat, they would have told you getting on that boat, oh yeah, man, my faith's awesome. I'm growing. I just watched Jesus do these miracles. And then the storm hits. And I think they gave him a little time to respond, and he wasn't responding, and they go down and they wake him up. Jesus, listen, you know what we're going through? And he, peace be still. And the waves calm, but in the middle of that, they found out a lot about their faith. See, when I pray for me and my family, for our staff, many of them are sitting in the room this morning. I pray for them. I don't pray, okay, God, grow them and develop them and take them through the fiery furnace, right? I don't do that. I pray, God, protect us and walk with us. But we all learn. Sometimes it's in that waiting that God grows our faith.